Welcome back to the channel. This is Trendy Storm and you're watching third part of What If Naruto Was Raised by Joker. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to the channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
A certain ninja with white hair had heard a lot about the son of one of his students. It had to do with psychopaths or something like that. He took it upon himself to check to see if the seal had become weaker. He was impressed by how many traps were set around the Uzumaki estate. They try to kill you if you step on the grass. There were also way too many tiger traps, net launchers, senbon and kunai launchers, and snares spread out all over the lawn. The only place that looked safe was the path that led to the front door. Jiraiya learned the hard way that he should not step on the pink stone. Even more so because the shock made him fall to the grass, where he angered a few of the ugly statues with pointy hats. He or she knew it was going to be a very long day. In a different world, a group of heroes got ready to go on a journey to catch a criminal. Finally, they were able to figure out where their silly criminals went. What Superman knew about Kryptonian technology, along with the help of some of the most tech-savvy superheroes and the Atom and Dr. Fate's advice, he was able to rebuild the Interdimensional gate. They could only fit 6 people through it at a time, which was a shame. 4 would have to go inside and get Harley Quinn and the Joker. Batman was a natural choice, and Nightwing, Dick Grayson, agreed to go with Bruce because he and Batman knew the Joker better than anyone else. John Stewart, who is the Green Lantern, joined them to use the power of his ring to help catch the 2 clowns. Finally, Jean Jones, the Martian Manhunter, offered to do both reconnaissance and turn on the return beacon when their mission was over. As soon as the gate opened, the watery, shimmering surface showed what looked like a joke about MT. Rushmore. Bruce, John, Dick, and Jean went through the portal and into a whole new world. At least new to them. Jiraiya was mad and scared at the same time. When the woman caught him looking at her while she put on a skin-tight red and black bodysuit, her glare was very scary. She was pulling him down by his foot into the basement after hitting him over the head with a huge hammer. Or was it a hammer? What did it matter? She had put a chakra-suppressing seal on his chin. It was interesting that she had one, and tied him up with ninja wire. It reminded him of the language Guy and Lee sometimes yelled into the sky, but she was muttering something in a language he hadn't heard much of before. The tone of her voice made it sound like she was predicting a lot of pain and suffering followed by a slow, painful death. There were no pleasant sounds at all. "Joker," she said when they got to the bottom of the stairs. "Honey. Look what I found in our house." Jiraiya could tell that the man's skin color was actual, even though it looked like he was wearing makeup. The Toad Hermit looked around the room while the man turned around. There were a lot of different torture tools and lab equipment in the room, which made it look a bit like Orochimaru's secret labs. However, the Snake Man's labs looked like kids' chemistry sets compared to this one. There was a big walk-in freezer on one side with the door wide open. Sounds of hard work and the impact of a kunai on frozen flesh could be heard coming from the freezer. "It's odd," the man known as Joker said, in a bored voice. "What is this that the cat dragged in?" "Really, a peeping Tom," the woman said. The Joker's supposed permanent smile went away and was replaced by an angry mask. In an instant, his desire to kill came to the surface. But then he took off his frown and put on the creepiest smile Jiraiya had ever seen. Any demon would be green with envy. But the smile made Jiraiya want to kill more than anything else he had felt since the Kyuubi was sealed. When Joker got a spoon out of a drawer, he took Jiraiya's eyes out and put gumballs in their place. He put some kind of chakra strings on them and on Jiraiya's ears, which let him see in some way. The clown then smiled happily and began to peel the old man's skin off layer by painful layer until there was only a rice paper thin layer left. After that, he put an explosive tag on the pervert's private parts and set it off. Next, the clown got a beaker of green liquid and started applying it to the pervert's skin drop by painful drop. Last but not least, Joker picked up an anvil and threw it on Jiraiya's chest. The woman just ate a bucket of popcorn with a little butter and no salt the whole time. The old, ugly hermit blinked. He had one of the most intense hallucinations he had ever had because he was trying to kill someone. "I think I have something special planned for him," the clown said, his eyes getting narrower and his smile getting bigger. A voice from the freezer said, "Hey. Don't start the party without me." Jiraiya was startled out of his scared shivers when he saw the blonde boy with blue eyes walk out of the freezer with a happy, but creepy, smile on his face. Jiraiya just blurted out the first thing that came to mind. Minato? With that one word, Joker and Harley's plans to kill stopped dead. Their faces showed that they were both confused and interested. Yes, the boy's face, which showed he had no idea what was going on, was priceless. Jiraiya would have laughed if he wasn't so confused. They knew someone was watching them. The people who lived in this universe must be very paranoid if they started watching the four of them as soon as they got there. Bruce knew they were in a place where people probably spoke Japanese because of the writing on the shop signs. This was picked up by Jean, who sent the message to John and Dick. Bruce knew they had to get rid of their tails, and he telepathically told Jean what they were going to do. When the four new people disappeared, both Anbu squads were confused. The 8 Anbu just put their hands up and whispered Kai, since there were no chakra signatures. After a while, nothing happened. Someone from one of the squads left 2 of its members to watch the area where the thieves went. They split up to look for the 4 strange people. He was freed from his chains and taken to the parlor on the first floor of the building. The old man checked the tea Harley served for poison. It didn't have any. He took a bottle of arsenic out of his jacket, though, and put a little in his cup. Then into Harley's cup. Naruto's too. What? Joker asked the man with white hair, and it took him a moment to understand. Oh, right. You don't know. The 3 of us have a Kekkei Genkai that makes our chakra both poisonous and acidic. We can ingest any poison or acid and it merely adds to our power. What? But you're not biologically related as far as I know. Harley said, we don't need to be. It can actually be transferred to other people merely by spending a great deal of time with any one of us. Naruto's teammates, minus their Chunin sensei, are prime examples of this. They are beginning to develop the bloodline. Oh. Naruto lost his cool. Why did you call me Minato? Is that my real name? No. I called you Minato because you look almost exactly like your biological father, Namikaze Minato. Naruto said, well, that's new. Wait. Namikaze? You mean the Yondaime? The same. So that's why those idiots in the Forest of Death were calling me, the Yellow Flash Reborn. Some genins called you that, eh? Well, the Yellow Flash, your birth father, is famous for killing over 2,000 Iwanins and Kumonins in a single day by slitting their throats. I like him already, Joker boasted with happiness. He used some sort of speed jutsu? He created the Hiraishin no Jutsu, which means Flying Thunder God no Jutsu, and is famous for it. Harley asked, how did it work? Jiraiya knew that all 3 of them were focused on him. I honestly don't know. I simply know what it did. He'd send a bunch of special kunai all over the battlefield. Each one had a series of seals on it. Then he'd use the jutsu and it would seem to teleport him to the locations of each of the kunai. Whether or not he actually teleported, no one knows. The secret of that jutsu died with him. At the same time he sealed the demon fox within me, eh? Or, yes. You don't resent him for it? Nah. He did it for the good of the village. Not that they deserved it. Well. I suppose that some of them did. So, Jiraiya said first. What happened 3 days after Naruto was born? He disappeared from the room he was being kept in. Joker used his own words to describe what had happened. That he was from another world was true, that much Jiraiya knew. But the rest of what he said was hard to tell. Who knew that Joker's face, which changes all the time, would make the best poker face? Do you think this bat person would be able to follow you to our world? Not likely, but I wouldn't be surprised if he managed to stalk me here. It looks like most of the people here are ninjas, Bruce said as they were hiding in a group of trees near what looked like a training ground. We need to be extra careful to avoid detection. I've been scanning these ninja with my powers, stated Jean. Seems that even the weakest among them have superpowers. I wouldn't be surprised if some of them could spit fire. John was warned, hey. There's a couple of those ninja down there. We need to keep quiet and keep our energy down. As the 10th hour of the morning dawned, a shock of blonde hair walked next to a mass of white hair on one of Konoha's training grounds. Naruto asked, so, what could you teach me? How about how to summon? We have already signed a strong summon script, the blonde said. My adoptive parents and I. Powerful, eh? Can you summon the boss summon? Not yet, but the second in command is powerful in his own right. I'd like to test him out if you don't mind. I don't mind, and the bird of Hermes loves to fight. Ready? The four intruders were impressed when Jiraiya jumped a long way away. Ready. Kuchiyose no jutsu. Our name is the bird of Hermes, Pluto, the left head, said first. The four people who heard him were startled because his voice sounded dead and empty, like lead bricks being dropped on granite slabs. Eating our wings to get used to humans, Vulcan said in the end. Jiraiya wasn't as startled by the loud, rough voice from the right head. He thought of the sound a kiln makes just before it goes off. The four observers, on the other hand, were shocked. How could a boy not only be able to call up something so horrible, but also want to? Healthy and tasty. They tasted just like chicken. Exclaimed the blonde with a smile. The hyena with two heads laughed. So, Vulcan said first. What does the clown pup want today? Batman understood the word clown in that question because he knew Japanese. I want you guys to fight this guy's boss summon. He thought, boss summon? We'll do it, but be sure to summon Cerberus the next time you want to go up against a summon or other beast of such high status. She'll forgive you this time, but her temper is even more legendary than Vulcan's. I heard that. Naturally. It sort of helps that your head is attached to the same body as mine. Guys. Shut up. Let's just wait for Jiraiya to summon his boss summon. Actually, Naruto, I have a few questions before I do. Shoot. The legendary hyena and jackal contract. That was hidden in Iwa, wasn't it? Yeah. Do you realize that since you were from Konoha and had blonde hair that you probably could have been killed? On 8 different occasions on the trip. Why? Jiraiya took a quick blink. Never mind. Kuchiyose no jutsu. The 4 Justice League members were shocked by how big the toad they called was. Jiraiya. How dare you summon me? Sorry Gamabunta. But this upstart summon wants to fight you. I see, the toad said. Wait. Upstart. I ought to burn you to a crisp, little man. I agree. We are quite well established as the second in command of the hyena half of the contract. We should be more than enough to beat the daylights out of this mere toad, despite the fact that he is larger than we. I don't like your condescending tone. I'm going to have a hyena skin rug to put in my parlor when this is over. When Gamabunta pulled out his sword, a fireball hit the ground where he was standing, and he had to jump out of the way. When Bone Lance says, Honohoko. Through Pluto's throat shot a very long, bone-only lance with a very large blade. Vulcan put his mouth on it and swung it up to block Gamabunta's katana. As the giant toad jumped back to get more room to fight, Pluto opened his mouth again. Tendrils of a black substance that was darker than eternity reached out and grabbed the lance, letting Vulcan let go of the shaft. He then opened his mouth very wide. Kaikamuchi no jutsu. Vulcan let out a stream of orange and red flame that almost hit Gamabunta if the toad hadn't jumped out of the way. Sweden. Tepudama. Means, water release, gunshot. The bird of Hermes was hit by a blast of compressed water from Gamabunta, but the two-headed hyena jumped out of the way. The fire whip that Vulcan pulled back was like slurping a soba noodle. He didn't want it to go out. It was then that the hyena and the toad jumped at each other. Gamabunta attacked with the katana, and Pluto used the bone lance. As the loud sounds of metal and bone hitting each other for a few seconds went around, everyone came to the same conclusion: the toad and the hyena were about equal. That is, until Naruto knew better. Gamabunta was very angry. He was the boss, and this simple second in command was going up against him. Vulcan then opened his mouth again, which let the whip go. Gamabunta couldn't avoid the fire, which burned a message on his stomach: 5 Ryu. 5 Ryu. Me love you long time. The toad boss looked down to see how bad the damage was. Gamabunta couldn't say anything. Even though he could get rid of the phrase if he let one of the other toads heal his burns, he was shocked that his opponent had the nerve to write graffiti on his stomach. Because he was so focused on something else, he might have been able to avoid Pluto's next attack. But as it was, he could only move just enough for the lance hand to cut his leg to the bone instead of stabbing him in a sensitive spot. When he realized that he could no longer move, he unsummoned himself and vanished in a cloud of smoke. Pluto ate the inky black tendrils in the Honohoko, and Vulcan ate his whip. That was so fun I've forgotten the insult the little man made about us, stated Vulcan. Worth the effort, I'd say. Too bad the Toad didn't put up as much of a fight as that Zabuza character did. You're telling me, Vulcan said, lifting his head to show the scar from the last fight. Still, it looked pretty bad, and it showed how badly his neck had been hurt. He looked at Naruto with his head turned. Do you need anything else? Nope. And that was pretty fun to watch. Especially the 5 Ryu thing. Vulcan laughed. We thought you'd like that. Well, until we meet again. That was it, the two-headed hyena was gone. The 4 people in the Justice League didn't know what to do. What kind of monsters would do something like that and let an old man and a little boy control them? That was totally wrong. So, Arrow Sennin, do you now understand how powerful my own summons are? Jean didn't understand. Could you tell me what the old man's name is? Strange things happen in this world's traditions. The old man's answer was, wow. It was clear that his brain was still trying to reset. Hey. What can you teach me? If you don't teach me, I'll bring you back to my parents' home so that they can devise a fitting punishment for peeking on my mom. Or did you forget that part of the bargain? When Jiraiya woke up, she started to panic. After that, he said the first jutsu that came to mind, Rasengan. I'll teach you the Rasengan. Naruto made a face. Do tell. What's it do? The 4 Justice League members left the area where the blonde and the old man were talking about training and took a moment to think about a few things. You know, Dick replied. If Joker had somehow learned how to do the things that people can do here, capturing him would be near impossible. And let us not forget that he's been here for the past 6 years. Bruce changed it to 6 years, 7 months, and 13 days. Also, I think that blonde kid might have some connection to the Joker. The two-headed hyena mentioned something about a clown before the fight. And the fact that it was a hyena seems to fit somewhat. I'd feel better if we found out who the local authorities are, stated John. And ask them to help us find the Joker and Harley Quinn. The ninja are the authority in this area, Jean said. But I think I've located our quarry. Well, one of them, at the very least. Bruce asked, which one? He was sent by Harley to get food. Not only did he not enjoy grocery shopping, but he also got a big discount just for being Mr. The fact that he scared every shop owner, except Ichiraku Tucci, who still gave his family a huge discount because they were his favorite customers, made him happy. He brought Bonnie and Clyde with him. He had just come back from shopping when 4 costumes that looked familiar popped up all around him. He only had to take a quick look to see that the hyenas were hiding under a Green Lantern-made dome. Joker, we have come to arrest you and take you back to Arkham, Batman stated. No can do, said the Joker. He used his thumb to point at his forehead guard. I'm a citizen of Konoha now, and a ninja to boot. Try to capture me and you'll have the entire ninja population jumping down your throats. Observe. Anbu. I could use some help here. An Anbu squad showed up in a swirl of leaves and wind and surrounded Joker to protect him. Both Batman and Nightwing took weapons from their utility belts, like batarangs and other weapons. When 2 Anbu saw this, they got their kunai and shuriken ready. When Jean saw that the mission was going badly, he tried to talk sense into the ninja after getting information from Batman's head about Japanese language and culture. The Mars visitor said, please. We don't wish to fight you. The Joker is simply a criminal from our homeworld. We have come to arrest him yet again. When the Anbu replied, one of them did a few hand seals. Joker laughed a little. Don't you get it, you green freak? I'm a ninja. One of their better ones too. And my friends here would never extradite me. Besides, the 4 of you are the bad guys for trying to capture a fellow ninja and learn his secrets, secrets that could be vital to Konoha's defense. I love the irony. The Anbu finished his jutsu, glad that Joker was taking his attention away. Raiden. Kyuden. Which means, lightning release, ball lightning. He put his hands out in front of him like he was holding a ball. With a sudden flash and a loud explosion, a ball made of orange and blue lightning appeared in his hands and started to pulse all over the place. Iru. Means, fire, shoot, or attack. The Kyuden shot out of the Anbu's hands and straight at the Martian. He got away from it by flying up, but the Anbu raised his hands, and the ball of electricity stopped quickly and then sped toward Jean. When the Green Lantern saw this, he let the hyenas go so he could build a shield to protect his alien friend. The Kyuden went off and hit the barrier. It was strong. Before John could do anything, a bunch of roots and branches wrapped around his body and made it hard for him to move. "Oh? I didn't know you were here, Yamato. My squad's been assigned to constantly tail you in case you ever snap." "Aw. That'd be why then. I give the old man points for being paranoid." The two Anbu that Batman and Nightwing were fighting were also hard for them to keep up with. When the younger of the two heroes looked at the Anbu, who had a scythe with a chain on it, he carefully held out his 6-foot quarterstaff. On the other hand, Batman was facing the other Anbu, who seemed to like taijutsu more than weapons. Jean sped down quickly to where the Green Lantern was stuck and stepped through the trees. He helped John break free from his bonds when he touched him. Joker used one of his family jutsu when he saw this. He quickly went through the horse and monkey seals with his hands. Caustic Fist, no jutsu. There was a green, acidic fluid on his hands and feet, and he jumped at the Martian. Jean wasn't ready for the crazyman's speed, so he didn't have time to avoid the attack. Even though he was phased out, Joker's acidic boot to the head seriously hurt him. He passed out because the nerves in his epidermis were so sensitive. The pain was that bad. John used the power of his ring to try to capture Joker, but Bonnie and Clyde tackled him from behind, which broke his focus. Soon, the Green Lantern was once again made of wood. The Anbu that attacked Jean in the first place put binding seals on the Martian's skin. Joker then turned off Caustic Fist and jumped into the fight between Nightwing and the Scythe and Chain Anbu. He hit the former Robin completely by surprise with a large sea bass in the kidney, which caused him to pass out. He dropped the fish and raised his hands to make the monkey seal shape, which made him laugh. As soon as Batman heard the Joker laugh, his opponent grew 6 more arms, all of which were tentacles. He had to avoid attacks from all of the arms. Outside the genjutsu, John and a Nightwing who was barely awake saw Batman dance and sing in a strange way. The Anbu who was fighting him stepped back and glanced at Joker. Upon sensing that Joker was producing a genjutsu, she relaxed and watched the amusing dance that the caped invader was performing. She said, "Wait," in a blonde voice. "You mean all I have to do is pop the balloon using just my chakra?" "Yes, and that particular balloon has been chemically treated to prevent your chakra from simply eating through the balloon." "That makes sense. Could you help me with something while I work on this?" "Depends on what it is." "Well, there's this girl on my team." As soon as Naruto saw Jiraiya's sexy grin, he quickly changed what he had said. "Whom I have been dating, bad luck. That smile keeps getting bigger. Try scaring people. Worked for me most of the time. And she hurt herself in the beginning. Do you know of any herbs that can help the body heal faster?" "The medic ninjas said she'd be out of the hospital in a month, but I'd rather she leave sooner." I don't specialize in this, but I do know a bit about medicine. I'll see what I can make as long as one thing is met." "Which is?" "If you allow me to see who she is." "Sure," the blonde said. "But if you do anything ungentlemanly around her, I'll do what my parents were planning on doing, and then some." He said that last part while grinning really big. That may be why what Jiraiya saw and heard was so scary for him. "See? What did I say? He's so funny when his shorts are dirty. Good morning, sunshine," said a voice that I knew. It was clear that she was way too happy. When Batman opened his eyes, he was on a chair, naked except for his mask, cape, and underwear. He saw Harley Quinn when he looked up. "Oh my gosh," Harley said as he went on. "We ought to make a bat stir-fry. But seriously, Joker's in charge of your interrogation. That doesn't mean that I don't get to talk to you like an irrational being." Or was that rational being? I can never remember which. Batman didn't say anything. He kept his head still and looked around the room. There was one door, 2 chairs, one for him and one for Harley, a metal table, 1 light bulb above, an off-screen TV hanging in a corner, and at least 2 security cameras, one in each of the corners that could be seen. Batman was right when he thought there were 2 more cameras in the back corners. Harley went on talking again. "Why do you always have to try and break up our happy little family, huh? 12, almost 13, years ago, my honey and I stole a portal from that crazy computer that Soup's people let loose. When we activated it, it spat out a little blonde child. We decided to adopt him." Batman's mind was busy. "They took in a child? What? Where did they lock him up? Why did they take him in? Why didn't he die sooner? And then, when he was a little older than 6, we decided to leave, but not without letting you track down the portal room. I suppose you know better than we do what happened after that in your world. But here, we were hired as ninja, and we've been happy ever since. And you tried to take that away. You tried to destroy our family. You're the monster here. Mad enough to track us down across dimensions. I should have fed you to those piranhas when I had the chance. She cried and hit Batman in the head with her standing boot, knocking him over. She slammed the door shut and stormed out of the room. There was a blink, and the door was open again. The Joker opened the door and shut it behind him. The clown looked at where Harley had left the room with a sad face and a clipboard in his hand. The man sighed and then looked at Batman. When he saw that his chair was on the floor, he picked it up. Bruce thought Joker would break out in a huge grin or laugh uncontrollably, but all he did was smirk. Right away, his blood froze. You know, Bats, I have you at my mercy. I've wanted to have you be in this position for a long time so that I could finally kill you. But no. Instead, we're just going to torture you before sending you home. And no, we don't want information. We just want to send a message. At last, Batman spoke. You're an imposter. That's when Joker laughed and threw his head back. Ibiki used the security feeds to keep an eye on Joker and Batman. He looked away from the dark-skinned man into another screen to watch Anko question him with the energy ring. He was adamant that he would take off the ring and that no one else could wear it. R&D scanned it and found that it was high in a number of energies, none of which were chakra. This meant that it was possible that the thing was wired for trouble in case someone other than the owner of the ring put it on. Anko hit the man in the face to wake him up. When John touched his right cheek, he felt a sharp pain. He knew he had been hit. Anko yelled, "Wake up!" What? Nani? Anko-san, Ibiki's voice said over the intercom. Mr. J said that they don't speak the same language as us. Oh. Yeah. I forgot. Who was that? What did he say about the Joker? Looks like I'll have to go with the universal language then. What? Anko then took a scalpel from the briefcase that was lying on the metal table. I'd tell you how much this is going to hurt, but you wouldn't understand a word I'd say. What are you doing? The snake lady walked up to John in a seductive way and started using the scalpel to write kanji and kana on his right arm. When Anko wrote, "For a good time call Anko in Konoha at." John screamed in pain. He shook his head. Then he went to check on Batman and Joker. All of that up to now, Mr. Ibiki looked at another screen and saw that the Green Man was being held in stasis by a network of seals. The man was finally awake and being questioned by an Anbu who was an expert Kaiten user in case he got away. Joker had said that the Uzumaki clan jutsu would be the only attacks that could hurt the man. The Green Man was already pleading for relief from the pain of the electrical wiring he was connected to. It was strange that he could speak their language. Ibiki turned his attention to a different monitor where Harley was questioning the last prisoner. Wake up. Bacon and eggs. Dick groaned because his head and back were still hurting. When he opened his eyes, he saw a very familiar face smiling at him. He became very alert and sat up straight in his chair. His eyes were almost scared, and his muscles shook from the stress he was putting them through. Hi, Harley. That's me. The crazy woman said in a happy voice, "How nice of you to join us among the living. You'll probably wish we had killed you when we're done. You are not going to hurt me? What about the rest? Nope. They'll be okay. But they won't be able to come back and hurt us as much." What? Yes, you heard me right, Batsy. It's not about getting back at them. Bruce was worried about what was going to happen to him and his teammates all of a sudden. He thought it was very strange that Joker wasn't trying to kill him. It's a message. Don't mess with Konoha, or you'll get hurt. Badly, the clown said after a moment. And maybe stabbed in the spine and left in a ditch. A message? Dick asked. Yes. Before taking down the portal, the Justice League needs to let any Gotham criminals who want to go to Konoha, as well as send the 2 ninjas we're sending out back to our nice hidden village. Batsy will have his own message to deliver, but you will have a different one. What? Sure, why not? Why did most of them turn to crime in the first place? The female clown asked as she honed a kunai. They're crazy, Nightwing said, wearing only his mask and boxers. Don't be silly. People in general turned their backs on them. Some of them would have turned to crime anyway, but most of them did so because they were wronged or shunned by their peers, or other criminals used them. Take Killer Croc as an example. I seriously doubt he would have turned to crime if he hadn't been turned down because of how he looked. I think you've overly romanticized your fellow villains. Maybe. We can always kill them and use their bodies for research if they get angry after coming here, though. You're being twisted? We are ninjas. We only honor our hidden village, which is Konoha in this case. We get rid of anything that threatens Konoha as quickly and effectively as we can. And you didn't kill us because killing any of you would bring the Justice League into the world. Please leave us alone. That's the message Batsy will bring. The TV screen in the upper corner of the room suddenly came on, showing Batman's cell, via the security feeds. Nightwing didn't have time to respond. The Joker was also there. It was Joker who said, "Hey, honey. I thought you'd like to see who's under mask number 1. Certainly. And I'll show you who's under mask number 2. As soon as Joker grabbed one of Batman's ears, Dick started to sweat. The cape and cowl were taken off with a flick of the wrist and thrown on the table. There was a moment of silence. Harley looked surprised. But then the two clowns just laughed. Ha ha ha. Batman is snicker Bruce Wayne. Snort, what's the matter, Batsy? Did you have a really bad day the night Mama and Papa died? Ah ha 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 ha. Bruce had a beet red face that turned into an angry mask, but he was still as calm as ever. But Joker could tell that his mind was working hard. Dick also knew that Batman was having problems on the inside because he had known the man for a long time. That the Bat had clearly split his personality into Bruce and Batman, with Batman being the more dominant, original version, which said a lot about the man's mental health. He was nearly as bad as Harvey Dent. He was having a hard time deciding whether he was supposed to be the Dark Knight or the dashing billionaire now that he was facing his worst enemy. He was taken very seriously when Joker got in his face, which was likely the first time in his life. I'm so sorry, Richie Rich, I just have a hard time believing that the billionaire playboy is the Bat. When Bruce opened his mouth to answer, the Joker put a sock in it to stop him. Shush. Batman's eyes got narrow in confusion. Before we find out who Nightwing is, I have a philosophical question for you. Joker's voice no longer sounded like he was on the edge of sanity. He threw what Bruce knew about the clown into a wood chipper and then peed on it, putting napalm on it afterward. The sock was taken off. This is what kept me coming back to Gotham. The thing that puzzled me the most was the most obvious thing. Everyone knows. You wear your shame like a badge, but you refuse to wear one like the boys in blue do. The Joker then took Batman's mask and held it up to his face. Just look at this. You are desperate to be seen as a monster while dressed in black, and yet. The Joker's fingers slid through the mask's bottom hole and moved around inside it. You left this little window, a small glimpse of the chiseled good looks of your alter ego, not the jaw of a fiend but of a human being. Why? Bruce closed his eyes. He wasn't sure what to say. He didn't know why. I see. Joker sighed and threw the mask back down on the table before continuing to talk. It'd be one thing if you did it just to make fun of me, but seriously. His normal, almost sane tone was back, which scared Bruce because it made him feel better. Oh well, I have my answer now, but you don't have the message yet, so you can't go home yet. Joker ruffled Bruce's hair and turned to look at Harley on the monitor. I have a feeling that it will be disappointing to see who the bird is, but I would like to know. Harley, who looked like a zombie, slid Nightwing's mask off his face like a robot, shocked by how sober her husband had sounded. The circus orphan? Talk about a letdown. Joker said as he ran his gloved hands through his hair. You know what, Batsy? I need a drink. I'll leave you to your thoughts for the rest of today. Joker? Honey? Are you feeling okay? No. I can't believe I just did that. Forced myself temporarily sane just to screw with Batman's mind. Get the formaldehyde, I want to get drunk. She opened her eyes slowly. She was still hurt, but she knew the bleeding inside her had stopped. Shish, said a voice that I knew. Don't worry about a thing. I got someone to help you out, but you won't be able to use your chakra for a while. You should be able to do so once the finals start. And Naruto? Yes, Hinata-chan. It's me. I'm sorry that Neji was more powerful than we anticipated, but you'll still be able to prove them all wrong soon. But I failed. Nonsense. You simply had a bad day. Rest now, and bide your time. He took a few steps away, and Hinata closed her eyes. Naruto did have one last thing to say though before he left the room. You know, my dad said that it only took one bad day to make him so powerful. I hope you can become more powerful too. As Hinata fell back to sleep, she thought about how she could welcome chaos and laughter. Of laughs and screams. About the bad day she had. Why would you ask me to help you with torture? Well, the usual methods don't seem to be cracking a couple of them, Joker. I thought maybe you could help us out with some experimental torture. Breaking bones is experimental? No. We've already tried that. No, we want your unique speeches. Talk about what you usually talk about when you try to get the troops moving. We want to go for intimidation. Yosh. I'll do it. I'll strike fear into their most unyouthful hearts by telling them about the flames of youth and the glories of Konoha. The clown smirked and clasped his hands together and said, perfect. Child. John was confused, which is putting it mildly. That's right, Naruto replied. You are about to be interrogated by a child. How does that make you feel? This world is F*** ed up. When Naruto smiled, John realized all of a sudden that this was the boy who had called that weird hyena and that this blonde boy was linked to the Joker. I'm in deep shish asterisk, aren't I? The boy just smiled bigger as he took out a piece of paper and a bottle of lemon juice. So, you know what your mission is, right? The Hokage asked two of his Anbu who he knew weren't in it for the route. Hi. That is why we allowed ourselves to be subjected to a genjutsu designed as a rapid language course for this. Ego. English, language. Good. You remember who to look for? Hi, said the other person. A woman called Poison Ivy, a short man with a monocle named Penguin, a disfigured man named Two-Face, a large gray man called Killer Croc, a shapeshifter named Clayface, a scientist called Scarecrow, a genius in a green suit called Riddler, a female thief named Catwoman, and a very short man wearing a top hat called the Mad Hatter. We are to avoid the large man called Bane, the ice user, Mr. Freeze, and any other freaks as well as the authorities. Very good. Be ready, for you will leave as soon as Uzumaki Joker says go. Dismissed. Batman was almost ready to break after another 2 days. He could have broken much faster if Joker hadn't given him a break every so often. This was done to make things worse for the rich boy. As the prisoners were close to dying, the medic nins had to keep saving them. When they did, they made sure that the wounds would scar. Today's the big day, Bats. You finally get to go home, but not before I give you a choice. When I send you back, you will have to choose which of your egos will die. Whether the rich ladies man known as Bruce Wayne suddenly disappears without a trace or the dark and mysterious knight known as Batman will cease to hunt down criminals. This will be a difficult choice for you. If you chose to kill Bruce Wayne, Batman will become suspect, especially since he will be cut off from his money. If Bruce Wayne lives on as a broken victim of the Joker, Batman will have to vanish. Bruce screamed himself so hard that his voice was raspy, but it still had a hint of defiance in it. What makes you think? Cough, I'll choose either? The Joker took a kunai out of his pouch and said, this. I just wanted to see you smile. Always have. But you never did. So, I'll just have to put a smile on your face. The clown held the bat's head in place with one hand. The kunai was carefully and slowly put into Bruce's mouth by the other hand. Let's put a smile on that face. Formaldehyde again? Yeah, with cyanide whiskey mixed in. He swallowed a few times before going on. I had done worse things to enemy spies before, but I liked this one. This time, it's not funny. Not fun. Probably the reason why you never really took care of him like that before. How do you figure? You loved to obsess over him, but you knew he would always be there and be so hard to get rid of that you relied on that as the only thing that would stay the same in your crazy life. You no longer have that to look forward to now that you've broken him and killed half of him so easily. Is that psycho-babble bullsh asterisk you're feeding me, or do you actually believe in it? Psychiatrists are 90% bullsh asterisk, you know. I love you, Harley. Right after that, he drank another shot of his poison. Yeah, So you'll have to let them know that we have the kryptonite that Batman normally carries in his belt here in Konoha. One of the... What was its name? Anbu? Yes, an Anbu member was talking to him. He really felt bad when they brought in that blonde kid they had seen earlier to help with the torture. They were bad people, but they had power. John knew why they were acting so badly, but he hoped an adult could help them understand. They were only trying to protect a friend and send a message to the rest of the Justice League. John was going to destroy the portal right away, but not before the two Anbu came back to Konoha with the criminals they had brought from Gotham. His clothes were given back to him, and after he was dressed, his arms were bound again. After that, they put his power ring in a small yellow bag and attached it to his suit with a safety pin. Jean looked awful. They told him that the symbols had been tattooed on him, taking away most of his powers for good. Bruce. He had that awful smile carved into his face. Dick had a smiley face tattoo on his forehead and the words, "Eat Ichiraku ramen, feel great," written in English on his back. He was the only one who didn't seem to have been really broken by the torture. He was still scared about what that crazy snake lady did to him, though. That bright ink she brought in was used to tattoo his organ to look like a snake. He was talking to one of the Anbu, and the other one was going to go back to the watchtower with them. The only thing that really scared him was hearing Harley singing, "Don't worry, be happy," in another room. Bruce looked really stressed out when he heard that song. The man's eyes, which looked almost empty, were actually filled with tears. "Hey, Arisenin." He put down his spyglass because the student's child was interrupting his research. He wasn't mad about it, though, so he didn't say anything. Instead, he looked at the boy, who was holding a blue balloon. Had he been able to pop the red one? Or did he figure out how to make it a different color? No matter what, the kid was smart. Yeah, Gaki? Gaki means brat. I figured out how to pop it. The balloon was held up by him. First I tried to just spin it, but it went like this. The balloon fell flat before Naruto let go of it. And with one hand, I couldn't get it to go more than 3 or 4 directions, he showed again, this time with the water inside the balloon sloshy but not really straining it. But then I thought, why not start it with both hands? He then put his other hand on the side of the balloon, which made the water inside it bubble and pop in a split second. Jiraiya had his mouth open. He learned about the first stage 8 days ago and already found his own way to solve it. The old ninja then made a grin with his mouth closed. That was great, Gaki. Here. He was given a box of rubber balls by Jiraiya. Stage 2 is a lot tougher. Instead of water, you're controlling air, which is harder to do, and you have to put enough force into it to pop the ball, which is thicker than any balloon. It took your grandfather a year to pop the ball within a second of it starting. It also took him a year and a half to figure out the first step and do it. Huh, Naruto shot back. How long did it take him to do stage 3? 12 months. He worked on the Rasengan for 3 years, and it's still not finished right now. So I should be able to get this done in 5 or 6 days and master the 3rd stage by the finals, eh? At the rate you're going, I wouldn't be surprised. The 2 Anbu in cat masks left a glowing portal at the meeting point in Training Ground 80 exactly 8 days after the 4 intruders and 2 Anbu were sent to that other universe. That's 15 days before the exams, for those who are keeping track. Along with Yamato's squad, Joker, Harley, the Sandame, and 4 full Anbu squads were there to greet them. When Harley asked, "Password?" "Shave and haircut," both cat-masked Anbu replied at the same time. I heard the Joker sing, 2 bits. As if to give the people on the other side a thumbs up, one of the 2 Anbu with cat masks stuck his arm back through the portal. A man dressed entirely in green, with a top hat, a cane, and a question mark design on his suit jacket came out of the portal pulling a suitcase behind him. He was followed by a tall man wearing a burlap mask pulling another suitcase and a trolley with several tanks of some kind of gas. On the other end of the trolley was a big gray man with sharp teeth and scaly skin who was pushing it along. He had 2 trunks in his other hand. A big, flesh-colored monster that looked like it was going to melt was following him. He was carrying 4 trunks by himself, so he either had a lot of stuff or was helping someone else. A beautiful woman with red hair and a small crossbow came out of the portal after he did. Along with her came a big plant-like thing that walked with its roots sticking out. Its vines carried several flower pots, a big box full of seed boxes, and another box full of fertilizer bags. He turned his head to the side and looked at the woman and her plant pet. It shut down after everyone went through, and everyone put their things down except the plant. The Sandame was told, Anbu, report. Mostly successful, Hokage-sama, an Anbu member said. Only 5 recruits from Gotham, one of them said, but the Justice League will never bother us again. 4 of the recruits already knew our language. And, Killer Croc, let us put him under the genjutsu to learn it already. The green-clad man moved forward. The Hokage, I presume? The younger man bowed when the older man nodded. Hi there. No changes were made to the original sentence as it does not require editing. Mark for question. Well, Gamonfu, assuming you pass our psych evaluation, standards are pretty lax, we can start your training if you wish to become a ninja. When this happened, Gamonfu bowed kindly. He looked at the man with the burlap mask. And you would be the Scarecrow, correct? Exactly, the tall man said as he bowed. My other name was Dr. Jonathan Crane, and I studied how fear changes people's minds. I'd like the name Osor because I've heard that Kakashi is already taken. Fear. That's a pretty fancy name, but it could work. You'll have to pass the test, just like Gamonfu. You'll probably end up working in our torture and interrogation department. Either way, you'll have plenty of people to test your fear on. Osor took a smile at this. He turned to look at the big gray man. And you would be? In answer, the man bowed. Allow me to introduce myself. In the other world, people called me Killer Croc. My real name is Waylon Jones, but you could just call me Croc. No matter what, I want to become a ninja. That would be okay as long as you pass the test. It's also possible that your illness could be passed on to your kids, which would make it a Kekkei Genkei. If it is, and even if it isn't, people will respect you and value you as a soldier. Croc again bowed and thanked the Hokage. The old man then looked at the monster that looked like flesh. The shapeshifter, Clayface, I presume? The thing bowed and said, exactly, but I'll be going by Doman around here. Doman means clay mask. I'd like to know more about this chakra, energy because it seems to be what helps me move around. Also, if I can use it to keep water away. Anyway, if I pass your mental test, I can help you find any spies among your ranks because my name is Matthew Hagen and I used to be an actor. Last but not least, the Hokage turned to the woman. She was looking around at the different plants and large areas of forest before she realized she was the next person to be introduced. When she bowed to the Hokage, she showed a lot of cleavage, which made the old man smile to himself. Yamato hid his small nosebleed in plain sight. My name is Pamela Isley, but you may know me as Poison Ivy. I'll go by the name Quinn Ivy, though, because that's Harley's childhood name and I feel like she's my sister. I love the forests here so much. It looks like the plants here are happy too. Joker put his elbow on Yamato and started to poke him. After that, in the office of the Hokage. So, only 5? Well, Hokage-sama, some did not wish to leave. Such as Two-Face, as the man does not trust Joker-san. Penguin actually had quite the information and financial network going. That we agreed with him that leaving it to start again from scratch would just be stupid. Mad Hatter. Let's see. He said that his technology was very fragile. And it probably wouldn't survive the rigors of a ninja lifestyle. So he declined on the basis that he felt he'd be quite useless to us. Joker-san advised us that Catwoman probably knew that Batman's alter ego was Bruce Wayne. Because he knew that Selina Kyle, Catwoman's real name, dated Bruce Wayne for a bit. So we did the responsible thing and told her what we did to the man. She wasn't happy and refused to come with us. We assumed that she probably still loves the man and either wanted to stay to comfort him, or didn't want to see Joker-san at all after what he did to him. Either one or both. We avoided all the others. Like a plague. He thought about that for a while taking a long drag from his pipe. Yes, I think she would be upset. That was the right thing to do. What turned out to be the Justice League? Well, the one in the red cape was furious. That we tortured his buddies, but with the urging of the dark-skinned man we tortured. As well as the guy in the gold mask, a woman in a red bodice and blue panties, and this woman with bird wings, among others. He relented and let us do what we went to do. Their reluctance crumbled once they learned that practically all of us here had super powers. What with all the people involved and everything. Then we said we'd come into their world. if they did not let us recruit some of Gotham's criminals to work for us prior to returning us to our own world. One more drag on the pipe. And they fell for the bluff? After proving that we can break the dimensional boundaries on our own. By summoning one of our nin cats. Which really freaked out the man with the gold mask. Yeah. They believed it. The Hokage gave a grin. Thank you for finishing your job. Both of you will get an extra payment with your next pay. Thank you, Hokage-sama. They all said at the same time. You should go back to keeping an eye on root members. Thrown out. They both chimed, hi, Hokage-sama. At the same time before disappearing in two separate smoke clouds. As he smoked his pipe, the Hokage leaned back. Hiruzen liked the Neko brothers because they were nice when it was appropriate and mean when it was needed. They were also funny, and it seemed like they knew what the other was thinking, which is something that twins are said to do. Since they were identical twins from a family that wasn't part of any clan and had found the housecat contract, a minor summoning contract, they were able to test into Anbu at the rank of genin. Uchiha Itachi was the only other person to do it, but they were a lot older than them. Still, they were great Anbu and very loyal to the Hokage, as shown by the fact that they always gave correct information about Danzo, who was in charge of Anbu-ne, also known as Root. As expected, Croc, Gamonfu, and Osor had a very hard time getting to their chakra. For the most part, Gamonfu made a lot of progress after Joker suggested that he see chakra as a difficult puzzle. He wasn't even close to using it yet, but he could already feel it in his body. Croc wasn't interested in chakra, so he trained with Might Guy every morning instead. He thought that by getting stronger, he could be much more useful to Konoha. While Osor wasn't quite up to speed yet, Joker and Ibiki said that interrogations went even better when Osor was present and used the same techniques and methods to help torture prisoners. It was most likely that Osor would never be a good fighter ninja, but Konoha could still use him. Because he could just move around and change shape with chakra, Doman was right about what he thought about himself. It was easy for him to figure out how ninja controlled it. He quickly learned as much as he could about chakra exercises and jutsu that keep water away. Ivy quickly learned from Harley's help that her ability to control her plants was a chakra technique, just like Harley's hammer space. She was thought to be a Mokuton user because of how good she was at taking care of plants. Yamato, the only other person who used Mokuton, began hanging out with Ivy when his squad wasn't working, but they were still following Joker around. Hokage-sama, the Anbu with the tiger mask said. Tiger-san. Report. Actually, I'm not Tiger-face, the Anbu said with a laugh, and then he got bigger and changed colors. Wow, said the Hokage. You had me going for a moment there, Doman-san. What do you have to report? I found a really big security hole this morning, only an hour ago, actually, and I'd like to bring it to your attention. Certainly. What is it? Doman just walked up to the Hokage and put his hand on the pile of papers that had piled up on his desk. This. The Sandaime cocked his head, not sure what to think. The report about the death of one of the Chunin examinees? Namely Kinuta Dosu? Think more broadly. Paperwork, Hokage-sama. To be sure, Hiruzen did a quick genjutsu canceller. He was also feeling a little dizzy. Excuse me, you said paperwork, right? Doman laughed. Yes, Hokage-sama, I did. You see, much of this is just legal filler, that if you took enough time to read through, you'd no doubt notice that some of these are authorizations for you to relinquish what powers you have and give them to the council, particularly the civilian parts of it. Do you have proof of this? Just my experiences with human nature. Remember how I said I was an actor? Basically a really expensive stage performer? Yes. Well, I had an agent for a time. I fired him because he kept trying to slip little things that would give him more money than he was due into the contracts I was signing. Eventually, he was making more money than I was, so I fired him. I have learned to go through the fine print. But the amount of paperwork I have. Correct. So much of it is legal filler that is boring, that you'll miss the little sneaky tricks they put in there. There is nowhere near enough time to go through it all, at least, not at the moment. Well, I do thank you, Doman-san. Didn't the Uzumaki kid say that his shadow clones give him the knowledge that he learns with them to his real self when they dispel? Well, I'm not sure how that is related. When Doman grinned big, it was almost as scary as when Joker grinned. The Hokage deadpanned, I'm such a fool. If you say so, sir. I do suggest getting rid of this paperwork problem after the finals. The old man took a puff from his pipe. I have been too lenient on the council. Thanks again, Doman. Doman changed back into the Anbu with the tiger mask. By your leave, Hokage-sama. The gray monster rolled around with his legs tucked in and his arms spread out after getting hit in the head by Might Guy. Croc had a terrible taijutsu form, but he mostly fought by brawling, which made him very unpredictable and disorganized. He also let his thick hide take most of the damage when he was hit. He was able to get back to standing after finishing the roll and caught Guy's follow-up roundhouse kick with his left palm. He then grabbed Guy by the collar and ripped him off the ground, even though the man in green was trying to grab Guy with his chakra. He then swung Guy over his head a few times and threw him into a tree. Guy flipped in the air so that he could land on his legs first. He was about to jump at Croc with the rebound when he saw that Croc was now charging very quickly. He barely had time to move out of the way before the bigger man crashed into the tree, breaking it up into small pieces that were easy to cut down. To make a point, Guy threw a kunai at Croc's back. He was surprised when the sharp object missed Croc and bounced off his thick hide. Hey, Lee. The little guy didn't understand why Naruto was visiting him, of all people. You Uzumaki-san. You ever hear of Jiraiya? The Toad Sage of the Sannin? Of course. What are you? After the Chunin exam finals, he and I are going to track down Tsunade, the slug princess of the Sannin. I'm going to make sure she fixes you up, because I can see the potential you have and would hate to see it go to waste. Naruto left the room before Lee could think about what he had just heard. Jiraiya was outside the room, not inside. So you told him? Why? Connections, Ero Sennin. Sure, the boy is not from a clan or anything, but he's going to rival Kakashi and Guy one day. A ninja who is that strong is my friend. Investing in favors rather early, eh? I'm going to be clan head one day, so I gotta make sure my connections are strong. We're still going to help out your girlfriend today, right? Silly Sennin. Of course we are. Hinata was sitting up and drawing in a sketchpad, which caught Naruto off guard. What you drawing there, Hinata-chan? He walked up to her and she grinned big. There were hints of madness in her eyes that weren't there the last time he saw her out and about. He smiled back at her. Jiraiya saw that Hyuga Hinata was talking about how crazy the Uzumaki family was every day. He wasn't really in the mood to tell anyone about this change, especially her father. She turned to the first page of her sketchbook and showed Naruto. Before he knew what it was, the crazy blonde looked at it for a minute. It was a picture of her dad stuck to a cross in the middle of the forest of death. And barbecue sauce on top of it. The next drawing was a fun joke about herself, but Hinata was dressed as a dominatrix. He blushed a little at that. It was funny or awful that some of the pictures showed people that Hinata didn't like. Some of them showed her in very sexy poses. It was one of her naked bodies with a fox lying on her stomach, its front paws covering her breasts and its tail covering her nether region that really got Naruto's attention. It was the fox. When Naruto saw that the fox smiled a lot like him, he knew that it was really him. At that point, his face was as red as a beet, and Hinata laughed in a strange way when she saw it. Jiraiya laughed at the same time as her. Naruto turned around and saw the old jerk writing something down on a pad of paper. He cleared his throat, and his shame turned to anger. Jiraiya did nothing but look up. Don't worry, Naruto. I'm changing the names drastically. Naruto shook his head and looked at Hinata. The veins around her eyes were bulging because she was using her Byakugan, and she was licking her lips at him with hunger. In that moment, Naruto understood he still had a boner. Hinata Ch-chan? Naruto thought of something else. He said in a harsh voice, Hinata. You're not supposed to be using your chakra. She looked shocked. She bowed her head slowly, and her bloodline limit went away. I'm sorry. Naruto-kun. I forgot. The crazy blonde sighed. Look, I don't want you to hurt yourself like that. You'll be able to use chakra again in 10 days, okay? Okay, she said in a low voice, still feeling sad. But after that, ogle me all you want. He said with a smile. She smiled back and looked up, a little red in the face. 14 days left until the finals, Gaki. How quickly can you pop the rubber ball? 10 seconds. Should have it down in another couple of days. So, you going to use the Rasengan against that Hyuga? Nope. Got something special planned for him. It had better not involve a banana peel. Naruto laughed. Damn it. Come on, Eddie. You can do better than that. Quiet, Joker. You're ruining my concentration. Harley replied, you'll have to get used to it, Gamonfu. You're going to have to be able to draw on your chakra at a moment's notice in the heat of battle eventually. The man in green grunted as he picked up the leaves again and used his small amount of chakra to try to stick them to his body. As they walked through the forest of death, Anko and Ivy talked about the different plants that grow there. It was the special Junin's favorite place. Anbu was following both women, which they were well aware of. They thought the Anbu were there to make sure Ivy was loyal, though. That's what most of the Anbu thought too, but Yamato only wanted to watch Ivy from a distance. At the same time, Osor and Ibiki were talking about how fear affected their customers, and how effective scare tactics were at getting people to spill their guts without having to do what Joker did, which was to literally spill their guts. Osor put the tea to his lips after rolling his burlap mask up over his nose to make room for it. I have noticed that Customer 7 is resisting all traditional methods, and has withdrawn within his own mind so well that Joker-san can't get at him. Ibiki smiled and ate his crackers. They were sitting outside of Prisoner 25's cell, where the woman could see them. These chains that drain her chakra lit up as her eye twitched. In the last 24 hours, she hadn't been fed or given anything to drink in 2 days. That's what the head of the Anbu Department of Torture and Interrogation, Anbu DTI, asked. Well, I suppose the man may be afraid of mice or spiders or something. I propose we post a D rank to collect 50 live rodents and another to collect 500 live spiders, but with C rank pay attached. If that fails, get me some peanut butter. Excuse me? Arachibutyrophobia. It is the fear of having peanut butter stuck to the roof of your mouth. The head of Ibiki turned up. Don't look at me that way. It's more common than you think. Barring that, we can go with a genjutsu based on helminphobia, the fear of being infested with worms. A fairly common phobia that most people don't even know they have. The woman in the cell moved her legs around. And if that doesn't work? Socerophobia. Sounds interesting. It's the fear of one's parents-in-law. Ibiki laughed. No. Lechanophobia, the fear of vegetables. You've got to be kidding me. Yeah, but some people do have it. You don't suppose he might have lenonophobia? Do I want to know? The fear of string, amusingly enough. The coworker in the burlap mask caught Ibiki's eye for a full minute before she spoke. Osor, get serious. Well, supposing he doesn't have musophobia, arachnophobia, helminphobia, or arachibutyrophobia, I suppose he might have apophobia, bees, sphyxophobia, wasps, virgativity phobia, rape, anophilophobia, painful sexual intercourse, proctophobia, rectal disease, teniophobia, tapeworms. The female prisoner twitched almost unnoticed. She shifted around in her bed uncomfortably. Asthenophobia, weakness, hemophobia, blood, necrophobia, corpses, ophidiophobia, snakes, parasitophobia, parasites, pyrophobia, fire, or hydrophobia, water. I think necrophobia is our best bet, the woman said after swallowing. Shall I ask Joker-san to procure us a corpse or two? Sure. Why not? It made the kunoichi want to cry when she realized they were talking about her and not another prisoner. The moray eel that Joker's son threw at him made him duck. Harley suggested a spar to see how much Naruto had improved under Jiraiya's guidance. There were only 7 days left until the finals. The elder clown rushed forward to hit his son in the face with his open palm, but the boy just swung forward, dodging the attack and getting past his father's guard. When he tried to raise his knee to hit Naruto in the nose, he felt pain in his foot instead. A kunai had nailed his foot to the ground. How did Naruto fall so fast? He snapped his other leg forward, hitting his son in the throat and throwing him a long way away. He could still feel the wind-based chakra in the air. Joker said, "You little sneak," as he took the kunai off of him. His son's shadow clones launched a full-on attack, hitting at different speeds, times, and angles while still working together. He had to quickly change his plans. To stop them, Joker had to use the caustic barrier. Before they could get away, he used the caustic bomb, which killed most of the shadow clones. Some of them stayed, though. Joker saw that they were Akuna no Kage Bunshins, or poisonous shadow copies, and that they had just taken in the acid from his attack. The clones then jumped off the ground, and to move faster than Joker thought possible, each one did their best to control the wind. Didn't the old pervert say that Naruto was mostly wind-natured and that they had mostly learned how to control chakras? What the man with green hair did was pull out a potato peeler and start killing the clones one by one until there was only one left. He then used a rubber chicken to attack that last Naruto. Poof. It was no longer there. The clown was so startled that he missed Naruto coming up behind him. The blonde quickly hit his dad in the behind with a kick. Gah-ha-eh, squeaked Joker, and then he tripped and fell down. Harley and Naruto started to laugh. What jutsu was that, son? Harley asked as Joker grumbled and smirked as he tried to walk off his wound. What's that? Oh, that's the other jutsu I learned from the Forbidden Scroll. It's called Hiru Banshu, Boka no Jutsu. Naruto's mother asked, why have you never used it before? Didn't have enough chakra control to use it reliably, either in or out of combat, until now. What does it do? Well, I can sink into objects, such as trees, the ground, large rocks, or buildings, and travel stealthily through the area. Only the most chakra-sensitive people can detect where I am, though I will try to improve my control further so that my chakra signature is spread throughout an entire area. Harley laughed. They'd be able to tell that you're around, but not pinpoint your location, right? Yup. So tell me, when is your girlfriend getting out of the hospital? 3 days left before she does. She'll be completely healed too. He thought to himself as he walked up to his family, her muscles will have atrophied a bit. Yeah, it'll be a couple of weeks before she's in any condition to go on missions. Oh, Harley said first. Jiraiya-san told me something interesting about Hinata-chan. Joker asked, what's that? When he saw Naruto's embarrassed face. He said, and I quote, the Hyuga princess is almost a bigger pervert than I am. Mo-om. Each parent laughed a little at their son's pain for a while. Harley chose to ask a question while she was still smiling. So, when do I expect psychotic grandbabies? Damn it, Mom. In his mind, Shino laughed as Aburame Shibi, his father and the clan head, checked all of his son's Kakaichu insects. The elder Aburame was getting angry when he learned that the Kakaichu in his son were a new, poisonous species that regularly injected their host with different poisons. However, he did not understand that this behavior was due to a command from Shino. The boy had been around the Uzumaki clan for a long time, so his bloodline became weak. To make it stronger, he sent his Kakaichu to get poisons to inject himself with. Son, Shibi said in a monotone voice. Your Kakaichu seem to have mutated. At my direction, father. Shibi thought about what was going on and what he knew in silence. Why? Did you know that the Uzumaki Kekkei Genkei is transferable through non-invasive means? For bug users, the elder Aburame's brow twitched was like Sakura yelling, what? At the top of her lungs. One just has to spend an extremely long period of time in their company, in the neighborhood of 9,001 hours. Shibi gave a nod. It would make the alliance between the two clans stronger in the future and make the people in both clans stronger. What about your Junin-sensei and other teammate? Kurenai-sensei actually doesn't spend enough time with us, and she tends to detox herself regularly, it seems. Shino knew he should keep going when Shibi nodded. Hinata-san is developing it much more slowly, due to the fact that she's spent less time among Naruto's company. She has only been to the Uzumaki estate once that I know of. Shibi also saw a chance for politics there. You will protect her from discovery until she is strong enough in the bloodline for it to be irreversible? That made Shino laugh, which surprised his father with how much emotion he was showing. Hinata got out of the hospital on the same day that Naruto finally got the Rasengan. The man could only hold it together for 5 seconds before the sphere of chakra broke apart. This meant that he wasn't fully skilled at it even in its incomplete form. Jiraiya told him he was done and praised him. Just to take his mind off of it long enough for the Hyuga heiress's tackling hug to hit. The hug turned into a wrestling match very quickly because both kids were so happy for each other and themselves. The next day, Hinata was worried that she might be falling behind, so she set up a training schedule with Kurenai, to help her chakra reserves, Joker and Harley, to help her with her unusual strategies and, in secret, to help her develop the Uzumaki bloodline, and Hyuga Shisho, for more medic nin training. The tougher parts of her training would start after the Chunin exams were over. This was because all of her teachers had to help make sure the finals went smoothly, since Joker was in charge of them and Harley was in charge of calling them. Naruto spent the rest of the days visiting the different Gotham Rogues members who were now Leaf Ninjas. He liked Domon a lot, but he was too normal for him to want to spend much time with. Ivy was nice, but she didn't always wait her turn. Even though he didn't fully understand chakra yet, Gamonfu was kind of fun to be around. He also told the blonde way too many hard puzzles. While Croc was fun to be with, he worked too much, which kept Guy's mind off of Lee's injuries for most of the day. Naruto wasn't really welcome unless he was going to help torture the prisoners. Osor didn't like any of the Uzumakis. He only came to Konoha because he could do as much research as he wanted without much oversight. The day finally came. 8 people who wanted to be Chunin stood in the middle of the arena, and Joker stood at the front of them. Huge crowds of foreign ninjas had come to see the show. The noise level was through the roof. The Hokage, the case cage, and a woman who said she was the Otokage were all sitting up in the cage box, which was where the village leaders could see what was going on. A pair of Anbu from each cage's village watched over them. The Otokage had a pair of snake masks, the case cage had a hawk mask and an elephant mask, and the Hokage had a rat mask and a tiger mask. Otokage Haim, Sarutobi Hiruzen said first. I am surprised that you showed up today. None of your village's contestants made it to the finals, especially since the one that did was found dead. She gave a soft laugh. The case cage was a little scared by the strange sound, but the Hokage wasn't affected because he talked to Uzumaki Joker all the time. I still wanted to see how the exams would turn out, especially since all of Case Cage Dono's children are participating. It was the Yondaime Case Cage who asked, really? I was under the assumption that you wished to see the last Uchiha fight, firsthand. The Hokage was amused. I'm sure you'll see more interesting things happen with some of the other Leaf Genin. The Uzumaki child, in particular. The Otokage asked him, oh? What makes you say that, Hokage Dono? This made the Case Cage cock his head. You should know already, Case Cage Dono. Uzumaki Naruto-kun is much like your youngest son, in more ways than one. It was so bad that the Case Cage almost gaped at the Hokage. Huh, the Otokage said first. The Uchiha is missing. How about we move his match to the end? Many feudal lords are here to witness him specifically, so we may as well allow it, or else our villages may not get as much business. Hokage let out a sigh. Very well. So, Joker said first. This is the new order of the matches, he said, pointing to a big board on one side of the stadium. There are only 9 participants, and the one that's still missing will probably be Ladia the chicken. Match 1. Hyuga Neji vs. Uzumaki Naruto. Match 2. Sabaku no Temari vs. Aburame Shino. Match 3. Sabaku no Kankuro vs. Nara Shikamaru. Match 4. Uchiha Sasuke vs. Sabaku no Gaara. By means of random lot, Akamichi Choji will fight one of the winners. All of you who are not fighting right now had better scram. The speakers let Harley's voice be heard. Everyone, welcome to the finals of the Chunin exam. Hi, my name is Uzumaki Harley. It means, good morning, Konoha. No need to say goodbye. Thank you to the foreign dignitaries who have arrived, especially the Case Cage and the self-proclaimed Otokage. This made people cheer. And it's almost time for the first match to begin. It's between my son, Uzumaki Naruto, and Neji, a princess from the Hyuga clan. Right now all we need is for my husband, the Uzumaki Joker, to start the show. Joker just smiled as the cheering went on. He didn't do anything to begin the match. Soon, people stopped being so excited. Damn you. Get going. The Joker laughed. It's always fun to get her angry. Alright, maggots. Get ready to kill each other. Naruto got down on all fours while Neji took the standard opening stance for the Juken. Mark. Naruto jumped 7 meters into the air to avoid Neji's forward charge. As he did this, he started a well-known seal sequence, horse and monkey. When Naruto swiped his hand across the spot where Neji's head used to be, he had to avoid getting hit. Some of the hairs on his head weren't even lucky. Their shape changed when Naruto touched them. As the blonde kicked and punched Naruto with all the grace of a drunk bull, Neji kept spinning away and out of reach. One reason Neji tried to get past Naruto's guard faster than the blonde should have been able to was to show that skill is more important than strength. Naruto wasn't there, though, because he quickly turned around to get farther away. But Neji didn't think about it too much. He didn't get how the other boy could change direction so quickly. Instead, he pressed his attack, putting the clown child on the defensive and stopping him from using his acidic chakra. The jutsu soon ran out of power and disappeared. Then the unthinkable happened. All of a sudden, a bunch of blondes dressed in black flocked to Neji in the arena. The Hyuga was shocked by how much chakra was poured into the field around him and how much control it must have taken to make so many solid copies in those forms. Still, he kept up the original and hit the other boy in the shoulder, but the blow went out as soon as it hit. Naruto must have used Kourimi to switch with a different clone. Neji turned around, ready for the other clones to attack, but he started to cough. It was impossible for the clone's smoke to have smelled so sweet. A little sleepy, Neji jumped away from the cloud of gas before he could breathe in any more poison. At this point, the clones that were closest to him started kicking him, and many of the others started throwing shuriken at him. Neji saw no other choice but to dive further forward, roll to a standing position, and start the Kaiten, heavenly spin. He was in the middle of a dome of chakra that erupted and spun like a top. All of the clones and projectiles that were in range were destroyed right away. As soon as he stopped spinning, one of the other clones threw another at him very quickly, making him sidestep to avoid it. But Naruto was able to hit Neji on the left upper arm while he was flying. For a short time, the prodigy's world turned into pain. He had a loose arm by his side, and the chakra pathways were all mixed up. "Eat it, Joes," was what they read. Neji glared at the clone that had gone by quickly. All the other clones were gone, so this one had to be the real one. At the same time, the Hyuga in the crowd were shocked to see the Uzumaki brat using a taijutsu style that was very different from their own. He must have learned it from the fight they had where the heiress used it on him. He thought, wary of getting close to me now, eh? Neji only glared. "Don't worry, I don't think we'll be going steady for a while, if ever." It got scarier when the Hyuga's glare got stronger. Naruto laughed and suddenly swung his hands at Neji, firing 6 snakes at the other boy with the Senieta Jashu, hidden shadow many snakes hand. The Hyuga had to dodge to his left because of the way the snakes came out of the blonde's sleeves. His good arm was hit by the snake closest to his right arm, which exploded in a cloud of chakra killing the other snakes. He had the same feeling of his coils being moved around for a short time. One of his arms now said, "This space for rent," and the other one was no longer useful. He started to say, "So, still laughing. Do you think you're destined to win now? Even with just my legs, I can beat you. You're going to lose, and I'll show you." Neji said something, but Naruto's hands started to shake before he could do anything about it. The older boy lost his balance when Neji's arms started flailing around all of a sudden. He tripped and kicked the blonde with a rock. Naruto was shocked by the sudden projectile and couldn't move before it hit him in the head. He popped like a balloon, leaving behind more smoke that looked sick. Neji quickly checked, but he wasn't quick enough because Naruto appeared from the ground next to Hima. The boy had been there the whole matcha and hit Neji on both hips, throwing him even more off balance. The bigger boy finally fell over as Naruto got up from the ground. "You guys have difficulty looking into the soil?" Naruto asked, sounding both upset and interested. Hinata-chan never seemed to have that blind spot. The Hyuga spectators, especially Hiyashi, thought about the idea that Hinata's eyes might be stronger than usual in some way. It turned out that her Byakugan was interacting with the weak Uzumaki Kekkei Genkei she was working on, and the two bloodlines were affecting each other in ways she didn't expect. The coils in Neji's legs read, "Property of the Flaming Dog." This made him very angry. With a smile, Naruto popped his knuckles by putting his fingers together and raising his arms above his head. "Now," he said, putting his hands down like he was going to play the piano. "Time for some art." This finger on Naruto's right hand twitched, and Neji's right arm did too. The left ring of Naruto and the left leg of Neji. Naruto then moved his hands much faster, which made Neji stand up. The blonde said, "You will pay for what you did to Hinata-chan," as if he were talking about what to eat for lunch. He then sang while moving his fingers to make Neji dance. "I am Neji, Neji of the Hyuga. Watch out for that tree ee. Watch out for that." Bam. Neji was forced to dance, and it led him to some of the arena floor's few plants. He found that his whole body had left a Neji-shaped mark in the bark before he fell backwards. The crowd let out a collective, "Oh!" as they felt the pain the Hyuga genius must have been in. Tree, the blonde finished, putting his hands in his pockets and grinning like the cat that ate the canary. A lot of people in the crowd, including Joker and Harley, thought it was funny that Neji lost so badly. Naruto just walked up to his opponent, who was blind and dazed. "Hey, Miss Neji. Did you get it? Shut up. And that's the match. Joker has declared our son to be the winner." A lot of people cheered. Some of them made booing sounds. Naruto just did a pirouette and smiled at everyone. It was interesting that Hyuga Hiyashi clapped slowly for a while before getting up to go see his nephew, who was being taken to the medical ward next to the arena. "Forgive my asking, Hokage Dono, but why did you have the Uzumaki boys' parents as officiators?" I second Otokage Haime's question. The Hokage laughed a little. They're the only ones who can keep the boy under some semblance of control. Especially if he ever went berserk. The Kazekage turned pale at the thought. No, he wasn't stupid. The Kyuubi had been defeated 12 years ago, and now this 12-year-old boy that the Hokage said looked a lot like Gaara. He didn't want to think about how bad the young Uzumaki would be because he knew what Gaara was like when he lost it. The Otokage shivered for a moment. It was the only flaw in her confused mask. When Joker said, "All right, son, that's enough," he stopped Naruto from enjoying the attention from the crowd, which was both good and bad. After that, he went to the box for the participants and started calling out names. Sabaku no Temari. Aburame Shino. Get your rears in gear. Temari jumped off the balcony and slid to the court floor on her fan. Shino went with a more direct route. He climbed up on the handrail and then took a quick step down. As he fell to the ground without any bones, many people in the audience screamed in fear, including Kurenai. The boy, on the other hand, just got up and brushed himself off, like nothing had happened. As Naruto climbed the vertical wall to the balcony, the stunned silence could be broken by his laughter. People in the outside world often wondered, have these kids never heard of stairs? Well, it seems Shino knows how to fall with style. But I wonder how it would measure up to his opponent's form of descent. People in the audience laughed nervously. Temari made fun of Shino as he walked slowly toward the middle of the field and stopped in front of the blonde from Suna. I tried to, anyway. Do you think that your stunt made you look good in the eyes of the dignitaries? You probably just lost your village a lot of money being so reckless. You talk too much, Shino said without any feeling, and Joker laughed. Okay, stop wasting time and start. The clown yelled. Temari did a backflip to get some space, and then she swung her fan at Shino to try to get him to move away or at least hurt him. He instead jumped forward and stuck himself to the ground with his chakra. This let the worst of her wind attack go right over him, only messing up his hair. He crawled forward at first, but then he pushed himself up and ran full speed, which surprised the older girl with how careless he was. She quickly folded her fan, though, and swung it like a club, hitting Shino in the temple and knocking him down. While she was focused on the next part of her swing, she saw that the brunette boy had left behind a fist-sized pile of glowing bugs. She didn't have time to block, so she pushed her body backwards with her wind power chakra. Although she was able to avoid the worst of the explosion, the huge fireball the bugs left behind still threw her off balance and burned some of her clothes, sending her flying. Shino just stood up, popped his neck, and wiped himself down. He wasn't even hurt. He was just scratched. Guy and Croc laughed together. When the boy came to them 15 days before the tournament and asked to be trained in pain tolerance, they had no choice but to give it to him. The boy didn't have bones as strong as iron yet, but most pain didn't bother him anymore. He was only slightly knocked out by the blow to the head. Clever reckless punk, Temari said to herself as she stood up. Even though she could still hold on to her fan, it wasn't much comfort. Shino was staring at her without moving while she opened the door. He was waiting for her to get up and do something. She looked at him with narrowed eyes. She thought the Aburame were cold, clinical, and logical, but her father's spies must have missed one strange person. It looks like Shino lost it in battle but was totally calm everywhere else. She swung her fan at the Aburame air again, this time from a long way away. Just as the fan reached the middle of its arc, Shino jumped out from behind her and punched her in the kidney. It still hurt like hell, but she was able to focus chakra there to lessen the damage and start fixing it. She swung again, this time without thinking, throwing herself backwards and running into Shino, knocking the younger boy over. She jumped back on top of her fan and used wind chakra to help her glide to the other side of the arena from the boy. She heard a faint buzzing to her left as she took a ready stance. She turned around just in time for Shino to kick her in the head, hitting her in the middle of the forehead and sending her back to the ground. She realized the other boy's game as she sat up and tried to shake off the blow. He put his bugs in small groups all over the arena and used Kourimi on them whenever one got close. It takes a lot of control to make a switch with such a big difference in size. Anyway, her first attack helped him spread some of his bugs around, and his charge was just a way to get one bug on her fan. The bug then stayed close to her until she attacked again, which made a space. "I figured you out," Temari said as she stood up. Shino laughed and said, "Really? Yeah, you Kourimi with your little pests. Surprising tactic for an Aburame." She could see his smirk over the top of his collar because Shino leaned forward that far. "Look down." She did, but when she stood on the grass, she saw glowing bugs hiding in the blades. They surrounded her in a huge circle. She realized that this was where he had first fallen down. "And he led me back to this spot with great skill." Shino shrugged his shoulders and said, "All it takes is a simple command for them to go off now. But I figured I should give you the chance to give up, seeing as how you are the Cage's daughter." She swallowed when she realized what was going on. He didn't want to kill her because it might make things worse between their villages politically. On the other hand, his first match showed how mean he was, and he probably wouldn't think twice about killing her if she didn't give up right away. "I forfeit." "Smart girl," Joker said as the bug's lights went out. "Winner. Aburame Shino." Jokingly, "You must be glad that one of your own kind wasn't killed," the Hokage said. The Cage's fists clenched the arms of his chair so hard that no one could tell. "Of course I am glad. She is my daughter, after all." In other places, different Chunin spoke positively about Temari's ability to remain calm during the unfair game. They also agreed with Shino's plan, even though the first part was a bit risky. Still, it was not like them at all. They said it was like the match between Naruto and Neji, which was also lopsided, though it wasn't clear until the second half. It was clear that the young Uzumaki had changed Shino. They had seen enough of Naruto's work, though, to decide not to promote him. As Shino walked back to the balcony, his bugs swarmed back to him. Many people in the audience were surprised by how many were out on the field. Temari followed him with a frown. When Harley said, "And what a fight." Shino dominated the match with his expert use of his Kakaichu insects and only 2 jutsu. For those keeping track, the 2 jutsu he used were his Hotaru no Baku, an explosive attack he created himself, and Kourimi, one of the most basic jutsu a ninja can use. She paused to let the crowd, especially the wealthy potential clients, process that information. And now begins match 3. Another of the Cage's children, Sabaku no Kankuro, and the resident shogi champion, Nara Shikamaru, are the players this time. Will the rookie genin beat the arguably more experienced puppeteer, or will the Suna prince avenge his sister? Kankuro's eye moved. He was also planning to give up to hide the poisons and workings of his weapon. Well, whatever. He didn't have to go all out, but he also wasn't going to fail to notice the other boy. Kankuro walked down the side of the building because he felt proud and had to fight. Naruto stopped Shikamaru from giving up because he thought it was the right thing to do. And Shino, which was a surprise. Kankuro was shocked when Shikamaru's body fell on top of him. He was even more shocked when the other boy rolled with him. The younger genin did look a little confused though. Muttering something that sounded a lot like, "Troublesome psychos throwing me like a sack of potatoes," Shikamaru got up and walked slowly over to where Joker was standing. He made sure to stand as far west as possible so that the dark-haired boy would be closer to the bigger shadows in the arena. Kankuro was aware that the lazy boy had carefully chosen the terrain, but he didn't understand why the side of the field with fewer plants would be better. The longer shadows over there might have had something to do with it. When both Kankuro and Shikamaru were ready to start, Joker spoke up. "You two had better make this as interesting as the other matches have been. Begin, slackers." When the Kabuki fan reached behind him to grab the wrappings around his puppet, a kunai hit him in the middle of the face, making a sound like wood. A lot of people turned around to see Shikamaru walking backwards toward the shadows behind him. When everyone turned around to look at Kankuro again, they saw that the sand was falling off, revealing a puppet underneath. People who knew the boy knew that the puppet's name was Karasu. When the wrappings were taken off, the real puppeteer came out. Kankuro was mad, so he took the kunai out of Karasu's face and looked down his nose at Shikamaru. Shikamaru just shrugged. The boy with the face paint threw the kunai back at Shikamaru, who skillfully caught it by the pommel ring with his hand. What did the Nara of Kankuro ask? Ever play Mumbly Peg? What? It's a game of psychology. I know what it is. Shikamaru smiled and quickly hid behind something. Karasu followed, but Kankuro saw a small shadow dart out from behind a different tree. When Kankuro saw this, he had to slow down until Shikamaru's shadow was no longer visible. Too bad he had to pull Karasu back too, since Karasu still couldn't project his chakra strings that far. He made Karasu open its mouth, which showed a kunai launcher inside, while grunting in anger. He took great care to aim and had it shoot the kunai at the tree Shikamaru had been hiding behind at first. He thought the other boy was playing a joke on him by making it look like it came from a different tree. There were several explosive tags wrapped around the kunai's handle. When the small knife hit the bark, they went off. But just then, the shadow that was looking for him vanished, and Shikamaru ducked behind another tree. The tree's top half fell backwards into the wall and broke into pieces when the branches hit the concrete. Kankuro yelled as he aimed again, plenty more where that came from. There was another explosion, and another tree fell. Shikamaru dodged again, this time in the same direction. As Kankuro led the younger boy out of the shadow, he laughed at how stupid he was. Naruto asked, "Hey, muscles?" Choji asked around a bag of potato chips, "What's up? Isn't Shikamaru faster than that? I thought he had gotten pretty fast when I played Mumbly Peg next to him in class." "Oh, he is fast. That's a bunchin'. Thought so." Kankuro laughed when there were only 3 trees left to hide behind. He still had 8 kunai that could go off in Karasu. He carefully aimed again. And moved against his will. He couldn't turn his head, so he looked down and saw a shadow attached to his. Linked to Karasu's. And going around Karasu at an angle back to a tree that hadn't been blown up at this point. Kagemane's success. Shikamaru yelled out loud. While Kankuro watched the boy walk out from behind the tree, the boy walked out. The Nara walked forward slowly, which made Kankuro leave Karasu behind. When Shikamaru got close to the puppet, it fell over because the chakra strings were too long to hold it up. Shikamaru kept walking until Kankuro was only a few centimeters from the wall. He then leaned back and stood on the small pile of sand that had been hiding Karasu at first. The lazy genin was teased, "Say good night." "Good night," Kankuro said, grinning at the wall. Shikamaru's feet sank into the sand, setting off a hidden explosive tag that was set off by the kabuki fan without touching it. This broke the Nara's jutsu. It was a rough landing for Shikamaru. As soon as he was able to sit up, he saw one of Karasu's blades. And that's the match. Joker has declared our son to be the winner. A lot of people cheered. Some of them made booing sounds. Naruto just did a pirouette and smiled at everyone. It was interesting that Hyuga Hiyashi clapped slowly for a while before getting up to go see his nephew, who was being taken to the medical ward next to the arena. "Forgive my asking, Hokage Dono, but why did you have the Uzumaki boys' parents as officiators?" I second Otokage Haime's question. The Hokage laughed a little. They're the only ones who can keep the boy under some semblance of control. Especially if he ever went berserk. The Kazekage turned pale at the thought. No, he wasn't stupid. The Kyuubi had been defeated 12 years ago, and now this 12-year-old boy that the Hokage said looked a lot like Gaara. He didn't want to think about how bad the young Uzumaki would be because he knew what Gaara was like when he lost it. The Otokage shivered for a moment. It was the only flaw in her confused mask. When Joker said, "All right, son, that's enough," he stopped Naruto from enjoying the attention from the crowd, which was both good and bad. After that, he went to the box for the participants and started calling out names. Sabaku no Temari. Aburame Shino. Get your rears in gear. Temari jumped off the balcony and slid to the court floor on her fan. Shino went with a more direct route. He climbed up on the handrail and then took a quick step down. As he fell to the ground without any bones, many people in the audience screamed in fear, including Kurenai. The boy, on the other hand, just got up and brushed himself off, like nothing had happened. As Naruto climbed the vertical wall to the balcony, the stunned silence could be broken by his laughter. People in the outside world often wondered, have these kids never heard of stairs? Well, it seems Shino knows how to fall with style. But I wonder how it would measure up to his opponent's form of descent. People in the audience laughed nervously. Temari made fun of Shino as he walked slowly toward the middle of the field and stopped in front of the blonde from Suna. I tried to, anyway. Do you think that your stunt made you look good in the eyes of the dignitaries? You probably just lost your village a lot of money being so reckless. You talk too much, Shino said without any feeling, and Joker laughed. Okay, stop wasting time and start. The clown yelled. Temari did a backflip to get some space, and then she swung her fan at Shino to try to get him to move away or at least hurt him. He instead jumped forward and stuck himself to the ground with his chakra. This let the worst of her wind attack go right over him, only messing up his hair. He crawled forward at first, but then he pushed himself up and ran full speed, which surprised the older girl with how careless he was. She quickly folded her fan, though, and swung it like a club, hitting Shino in the temple and knocking him down. While she was focused on the next part of her swing, she saw that the brunette boy had left behind a fist-sized pile of glowing bugs. She didn't have time to block, so she pushed her body backwards with her wind power chakra. Although she was able to avoid the worst of the explosion, the huge fireball the bugs left behind still threw her off balance and burned some of her clothes, sending her flying. Shino just stood up, popped his neck, and wiped himself down. He wasn't even hurt. He was just scratched. Guy and Croc laughed together. When the boy came to them 15 days before the tournament and asked to be trained in pain tolerance, they had no choice but to give it to him. The boy didn't have bones as strong as iron yet, but most pain didn't bother him anymore. He was only slightly knocked out by the blow to the head. Clever reckless punk, Temari said to herself as she stood up. Even though she could still hold on to her fan, it wasn't much comfort. Shino was staring at her without moving while she opened the door. He was waiting for her to get up and do something. She looked at him with narrowed eyes. She thought the Aburame were cold, clinical, and logical, but her father's spies must have missed one strange person. It looks like Shino lost it in battle but was totally calm everywhere else. She swung her fan at the Aburame air again, this time from a long way away. Just as the fan reached the middle of its arc, Shino jumped out from behind her and punched her in the kidney. It still hurt like hell, but she was able to focus chakra there to lessen the damage and start fixing it. She swung again, this time without thinking, throwing herself backwards and running into Shino, knocking the younger boy over. She jumped back on top of her fan and used wind chakra to help her glide to the other side of the arena from the boy. She heard a faint buzzing to her left as she took a ready stance. She turned around just in time for Shino to kick her in the head, hitting her in the middle of the forehead and sending her back to the ground. She realized the other boy's game as she sat up and tried to shake off the blow. He put his bugs in small groups all over the arena and used Kourimi on them whenever one got close. It takes a lot of control to make a switch with such a big difference in size. Anyway, her first attack helped him spread some of his bugs around, and his charge was just a way to get one bug on her fan. The bug then stayed close to her until she attacked again, which made a space. I figured you out, Temari said as she stood up. Shino laughed and said, really? Yeah, you Kourimi with your little pests. Surprising tactic for an Aburame. She could see his smirk over the top of his collar because Shino leaned forward that far. Look down. She did, but when she stood on the grass, she saw glowing bugs hiding in the blades. They surrounded her in a huge circle. She realized that this was where he had first fallen down. And he led me back to this spot with great skill. Shino shrugged his shoulders and said, all it takes is a simple command for them to go off now. But I figured I should give you the chance to give up, seeing as how you are the Kage's daughter. She swallowed when she realized what was going on. He didn't want to kill her because it might make things worse between their villages politically. On the other hand, his first match showed how mean he was, and he probably wouldn't think twice about killing her if she didn't give up right away. I forfeit. Smart girl, Joker said as the bug's lights went out. Winner. Aburame Shino. Jokingly, You must be glad that one of your own kind wasn't killed, the Hokage said. The Kage's fists clenched the arms of his chair so hard that no one could tell. Of course I am glad. She is my daughter, after all. In other places, different Chunin spoke positively about Temari's ability to remain calm during the unfair game. They also agreed with Shino's plan, even though the first part was a bit risky. Still, it was not like them at all. They said it was like the match between Naruto and Neji, which was also lopsided, though it wasn't clear until the second half. It was clear that the young Uzumaki had changed Shino. They had seen enough of Naruto's work, though, to decide not to promote him. As Shino walked back to the balcony, his bugs swarmed back to him. Many people in the audience were surprised by how many were out on the field. Temari followed him with a frown. When Harley said, "And what a fight." Shino dominated the match with his expert use of his Kakaichu insects and only 2 jutsu. For those keeping track, the 2 jutsu he used were his Hotaru no Baku, an explosive attack he created himself, and Kawarimi, one of the most basic jutsu a ninja can use. She paused to let the crowd, especially the wealthy potential clients, process that information. And now begins match 3. Another of the Kage's children, Sabaku no Kankuro, and the resident shogi champion, Nara Shikamaru, are the players this time. Will the rookie genin beat the arguably more experienced puppeteer, or will the Suna prince avenge his sister? Kankuro's eye moved. He was also planning to give up to hide the poisons and workings of his weapon. Well, whatever. He didn't have to go all out, but he also wasn't going to fail to notice the other boy. Kankuro walked down the side of the building because he felt proud and had to fight. Naruto stopped Shikamaru from giving up because he thought it was the right thing to do. And Shino, which was a surprise. Kankuro was shocked when Shikamaru's body fell on top of him. He was even more shocked when the other boy rolled with him. The younger genin did look a little confused though. Muttering something that sounded a lot like, "Troublesome psychos throwing me like a sack of potatoes," Shikamaru got up and walked slowly over to where Joker was standing. He made sure to stand as far west as possible so that the dark-haired boy would be closer to the bigger shadows in the arena. Kankuro was aware that the lazy boy had carefully chosen the terrain, but he didn't understand why the side of the field with fewer plants would be better. The longer shadows over there might have had something to do with it. When both Kankuro and Shikamaru were ready to start, Joker spoke up. "You two had better make this as interesting as the other matches have been. Begin, slackers." When the Kabuki fan reached behind him to grab the wrappings around his puppet, a kunai hit him in the middle of the face, making a sound like wood. A lot of people turned around to see Shikamaru walking backwards toward the shadows behind him. When everyone turned around to look at Kankuro again, they saw that the sand was falling off, revealing a puppet underneath. People who knew the boy knew that the puppet's name was Karasu. When the wrappings were taken off, the real puppeteer came out. Kankuro was mad, so he took the kunai out of Karasu's face and looked down his nose at Shikamaru. Shikamaru just shrugged. The boy with the face paint threw the kunai back at Shikamaru, who skillfully caught it by the pommel ring with his hand. What did the Nara of Kankuro ask? Ever play Mumbly Peg? What? It's a game of psychology. I know what it is. Shikamaru smiled and quickly hid behind something. Karasu followed, but Kankuro saw a small shadow dart out from behind a different tree. When Kankuro saw this, he had to slow down until Shikamaru's shadow was no longer visible. Too bad he had to pull Karasu back too, since Karasu still couldn't project his chakra strings that far. He made Karasu open its mouth, which showed a kunai launcher inside, while grunting in anger. He took great care to aim and had it shoot the kunai at the tree Shikamaru had been hiding behind at first. He thought the other boy was playing a joke on him by making it look like it came from a different tree. There were several explosive tags wrapped around the kunai's handle. When the small knife hit the bark, they went off. But just then, the shadow that was looking for him vanished, and Shikamaru ducked behind another tree. The tree's top half fell backwards into the wall and broke into pieces when the branches hit the concrete. Kankuro yelled as he aimed again, plenty more where that came from. There was another explosion, and another tree fell. Shikamaru dodged again, this time in the same direction. As Kankuro led the younger boy out of the shadow, he laughed at how stupid he was. Naruto asked, "Hey, muscles?" Choji asked around a bag of potato chips, "What's up? Isn't Shikamaru faster than that?" I thought he had gotten pretty fast when I played Mumbly Peg next to him in class. Oh, he is fast. That's a bunchin'. Thought so. Kankuro laughed when there were only 3 trees left to hide behind. He still had 8 kunai that could go off in Karasu. He carefully aimed again. And moved against his will. He couldn't turn his head, so he looked down and saw a shadow attached to his. Linked to Karasu's. And going around Karasu at an angle back to a tree that hadn't been blown up at this point. Kagemane's success.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.